What's good, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another SK Wealth Academy podcast, number 135. Financial news of the horrific and parasitic, volume number 7. So after a 1-week hiatus, we're back with this regular update for the week of August 31st to September 4th. And in this edition, we're going to cover a lot of topics. We're going to cover Elon Musk's Neuralink. We're going to cover why COVID seems to attack the black population so much, not only in America, but also in Brazil. And we're going to talk about new geopolitical alliances that confirm things I've always said about Japan, Australia, and India. And I'll get into that in a bit. When I move on to that, we're going to move on to the disappearance of bees. They're still happening, though, because COVID dominates our news 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for the last 8 months straight. Nobody cares about disappearing bees anymore. I'm going to talk about gold and silver as well. For those of you interested in those topics, stay tuned because I have a lot to say about those two topics. I'm sure you will not hear anywhere else in the entire world. Okay, so let's get started. Before I get started, please do remember to subscribe. If you are watching this and you haven't subscribed, just do me this easy solid. It takes you 3 seconds. So please just hit that subscribe button, click the notification bell, and also like and comment this video if you like the content. If you dislike it, of course I don't like it. So let's get started. Also, I have already recorded podcast number 133, 134. So I know this is a little out of order. I know there are two podcasts, 132. So I need the second one, 132B. But my mind is becoming mush being in travel lockdown for 5 full months now. So just this past week, I thought it was the beginning of the week. I thought it was Monday. And I was talking to a friend of mine. I said, hey, happy Monday. And she was like, it's not Monday, John, it's Tuesday. Like I'm just losing days like alien abductees. I'm losing track of time. And so I think it's a huge achievement for me to still just retain my sanity to do these podcasts while I can. So let's talk about Neuralink. So Neuralink, Elon Musk, the CEO, is he the CEO or president of Tesla? I think it's CEO of Tesla. He said basically that he's working on electronic brain-computer interface. I guess they call it BCI for short. That would be embedded into your skull. Elon Musk makes all these grandiose declarations that have no validity right now because there's no proof this could be done. But he says, hey, my Neuralink's going to cure blindness, paralysis, deafness, and 5 gazillion other medical conditions that have not yet been solved. He's like, I'm going to solve them all, even though there's zero scientific evidence. Even his claim that a monkey was able to control a computer just with its thoughts with his Neuralink invention was just presented in a paper that was non-peer reviewed. And even if it did appear in a peer-reviewed so-called respected medical journal, today that would not even mean it was legit. It was a legitimate study because medical journals have been politicized to the point that studies that are called peer-reviewed studies sometimes are reviewed by a bunch of peers that have the same political agenda. So even peer review doesn't hold the same weight it used to. So let's move on. And again, I'm going to put, for all of you, you already know, all the links to the articles in the show notes below. So you can go find the articles if you want to read more and more about this. But again, this is just pseudoscience at this point. There's no real science that shows that Elon Musk is going to be successful with his Neuralink, even though that's all over the news. Okay, let's move on. Now, again, the mortality rate for Black Americans from COVID is apparently a lot higher than any other race. That's also the case in Brazil, where 61% of the 44,488 people reported that have died from COVID by the end of June were identified as Black. But it has nothing to do with race, because the virus doesn't discriminate by race and say I'm gonna kill a lot more black people than any other race. It has to do with poverty, because in America, rich black Americans are not dying from COVID. It's poor black Americans, just like in Brazil. So poor black population that is dying the most because they have the least access to good health care, and also the worst nutrition because they have the least amount of money. So they eat a lot of non-nutritious, high caloric food, which leads to obesity, which is one of the greatest comorbidity factors of death. So this has more to do with poverty. So let's move on to the news that Deputy Secretary of State Stephen, I have no idea how he pronounces his last name, is U.S. Deputy Secretary of State Stephen Biegun, Biegun. He basically stated that he's working on a geopolitical cooperative organization with India, Japan, and Australia that would resemble something like NATO for the Asian Pacific region. This makes total sense, because if you look at who has enforced the strictest lockdown, who basically is a colony of the United States, it would be those countries. Because who has enforced the strictest lockdowns in the Asian Pacific region? Australia, India. I've always said for years, for those of you that have followed me in my new site, malamalama.com/WordPress, that I don't trust Narendra Modi as far as I could throw his... Okay, I'm trying to be nice and not cuss it out, but I really, really, really dislike Narendra Modi a lot. Although I know that's not going to sit well with tons of Indian Americans. I don't know why, but they love him for some inexplicable reason. Because he's a straight up traitor to Indian people. Maybe Indian Americans love him because they don't live in India and his policies are not directly affecting them. But in the past, I revealed to people, hey, this guy is a traitor. He's controlled by U.S. central bankers. He tried to steal physical gold from Indians because he attempted to institute a gold demonetization plan where he begged and urged. He said, do your patriotic duty, which, by the way, Albert Camus, who wrote the seminal book, The Stranger, which everyone should read, but he once said, I'm going to paraphrase Camus because I don't remember the exact quote, but he said something like, the tyrants will always use an excuse to enforce their tyranny, that you need to do this for the welfare of the people. That's what Narendra Modi did in his attempted gold demonetization plan. The Indians were too smart to fall for it. They saw through it because Modi said, for the love of India, if you're a good patriot, you will bring your physical gold to the Indian banks, give it, and in turn receive a worthless piece of paper, and we'll give you a certain interest rate, which is comical, the interest rate, because the appreciation and price in rupees has soared since you tried. So you would have lost out on huge profits had you listened to that snake Narendra Modi. And again, it has, like, if India becomes part of this alliance, the Australia, India, Japan, because the Japanese central bank had destroyed the yen through 30 years, or 4 decades now, going on 4 decades of zero interest rate policy. So, you know, in fact, Japan is so hard up that apparently to try to attract younger generation, because their age demographic period is upside down, right? Because it's like the base is mostly elderly and the young people is a very small part. And of course, you need younger people to support growth, economic growth. So they're trying to attract younger people by, like, giving them homes, and I can't remember what the exact specifications were of these deals, but they're trying to attract younger foreigners to Japan because they realize they need an infusion of youth to grow the economy. But that's all due to the Bank of Japan's destructive monetary policies. Again, falls right in line with the U.S. central bankers' policies. And what else? So let's move on from that alliance. That doesn't surprise me at all. Like I said, because all we hear is COVID all day, all night for the last 8 months from the mass media, especially in the West. But we hear it in Asia as well all the time. Now, people have started talking about the disappearance of bees, but still ongoing. Remember when that news dominated? They're saying, what is going on with all the bees disappearing? Now, the crazy thing is that bees are responsible for pollinating 90% of the food we consume. So the bees disappear, we all will die. So people should be concerned about this, but nobody's concerned about this because the mass media has us just focusing on COVID, which again, I'm going to upload. The very next podcast is going to be podcast 133. Please go check that out because I'm going to explain why it's imperative upon all of us not to keep falling victim to all these economic lockdowns, and to be focusing our energy and time on something that the parasitic ruling class wants us to focus our time on instead of, and there are more pressing issues at hand, such as the disappearance of bees. Now, interestingly enough, I remember reading over the years that there was a direct link between glyphosates, which is the chemical in the pesticide Roundup, manufactured by Monsanto, now acquired by Bayer, so it falls under the umbrella of Bayer. But even when I looked up, I did a search on Google, of course, because Google is U.S. Department of Defense project funded and seeded, so they're never going to tell you the truth on issues like this. When I said link of pesticides to bee disappearances, they returned were all these stories about how global climate warming is responsible for bees disappearing. So you had all these articles, hotter and more frequent extreme temperatures are causing bees to become, are decimating the global bee population. But in fact, just this past year, during California, awarded a massive judgment to Dwayne Johnson, not The Rock, but a different Dwayne Johnson, that who had sued Monsanto. I guess the suit went on to Bayer after Bayer acquired Monsanto, because he said that the use of Roundup had given him non-Hodgkin lymphoma, type of cancer of the white blood cells. So obviously there must be some kind of solid scientific evidence that was the case for him to win his lawsuit. And Johnson, along with, there are 13,000 other plaintiffs, allege that glyphosate caused this form of cancer called non-Hodgkin lymphoma. Now, besides, even before I move on to why glyphosates are believed to have very harmful effects on decimating the bee population, they also are known to be harmful to fish, crustaceans, amphibians, and also to good bacteria, microorganisms in soil and water. And also, this is why it's harmful to bees, because glyphosates, certain research has been shown to link glyphosates in Roundup to the to disrupting the growth of bee larvae, also to diminishing the bees' navigational skills, even disrupting their gut microorganisms known as their microbiome, which causes them to become unhealthy and to die. Now, just to give you the other side of the story, of course, there's a number of other stories that say glyphosates are not toxic to bees at all, but those studies have all been performed by Monsanto and other agrochemical companies. So that's like having an internal affairs division of a police division investigate a cop for shooting and murdering someone using unnecessary excessive force in murdering a person and finding them innocent of those charges. So it's not exactly very legitimate studies that show that there's no link of glyphosate to the decimation of the bee population. So let's move on. Now, actually, I forgot this. I wanted to say something about India and Narendra Modi, because here's one thing that has happened, which I would not doubt was a ulterior motive of Modi imposing such a severe lockdown on Indians, because he failed to steal their physical gold through his gold demonetization plan, which, by the way, he sold as a gold monetization plan. That's how much of a low-life snake Modi is. He called it a gold monetization plan by bringing your physical gold and receiving a paper contract for that amount of gold you're going to give, and you get some kind of interest on it. So it was obviously a gold demonetization plan. And what is happening because of this economic lockdown, and that people are in India, numerous stories now of selling gold heirlooms passed down for decades in their family, because they are running out of money. So they have to sell gold for cash in order to live. And they're mentioning, for example, there's a Delhi resident, Jasmine Nair, said she had to sell her family gold in July because her cash ran out because of these inhumane economic lockdowns that Modi's been enforcing upon her family. And she said that she sold some of the gold that was given to her for her wedding. She said was her last hope for survival. And also another Asha Goel said that they sold gold jewelry their mother had gave them more than 2 decades ago, and they would use the proceeds for basic living expenses because they were running out of cash, and also to pay for tuition fees for their kids. And so this is just ridiculous that people are being forced by that snake Modi to sell their gold for cash. Now, this is what I would say if you're listening to me and you're in India. Go look for firms that will actually lend you cash on the collateral of your gold. So you do not have to sell your gold. You can get loans based upon your gold. That's a much wiser decision, because gold will continue to go higher in rupees. So it's very foolish to sell your physical gold if you can get a loan on your physical gold. Take out a loan instead. Manappuram Finance, Manappuram. Manappuram Finance is one of the biggest lending firms that is that's providing loans to families in need in India, taking physical gold as collateral. So try to do that instead, because that's a much better way to go. Now, I'm going to move on, going on with the gold subject. There are certain gold mining stocks that really suffered last month despite gold prices going up. Most gold mining stocks did really well, but some, and I'll give you the reason why. A lot of people didn't know why. Like Australian mining stock, Resolute Mining is a very well-known Australian gold mining stock. Its shares went down 18%. Earlier this month. People said, what happened? It was because they made a huge tactical mistake. In fact, that they put all their eggs in one basket. They actually sold some of the resources they controlled in Australia to concentrate on a gold mine in Mali. What happened in Mali? Because Mali just had a coup. So basically, soldiers showed up at the president's home, arrested him, and they took over that country. And as well, they're controlling the streets now, and Islamic jihadists totally control the north of Mali, the northern regions. So there's been infiltration. Now, this is not new as far as the infiltration of Islamic insurgents and terrorists. They've been invading Mali for a long, long time. And in fact, I think in 2013, France sent military troops to try to calm that down. They failed. And so Mali is you have to look. The point of me telling this is that even when you have a solid company like Resolute Mining, you have to understand geopolitical risk, because that could really kill all of the good points of that company, because Resolute sold its Ravenswood Gold project in Queensland, and they put all their bets on their Siama operation in Mali. Now that decision is killing them. Now, as well, if you look in Mexico, you definitely have to consider okay, this is something you heard here first before anyone else. The Mexican drug cartels are going to target. They're going to target the gold mining operations in Mexico. So you should be very careful about investing in mining companies that aren't diversified, that have most of their operations in Mexico, because 80% of that country, of the country's 266 districts, are either controlled by drug cartels or disputed by the cartels. And only 20% of the districts in all of Mexico enjoy a low level of violence. And so this was, according to a 2019 study performed by Mexican investigative journal Contralinea, and just last year there were 35,588 murders, just out of control, the violence, the drug cartel violence, as well as far as other cities in Mexico that are completely controlled by these drug cartels are Tijuana, Mexicali, San Luis, Nogales, Juarez, Piedras Negras, Laredo, Miguel Alemán, and Reynosa. And also the state of Guerrero, and what is the other one? Chihuahua are two of the top three most violent states in Mexico due to drug cartel violence. Now, the major mining states are Chihuahua, Guerrero, Zacatecas, Sonora, Durango, and San Luis Potosí. But just because Chihuahua and Guerrero are two of the most three violent states in Mexico doesn't mean that you can't have gold heists that are going to happen in other of these states. Because there's a saying in Mexico, plata o plomo, which basically translates to silver. Plata means silver, but it really means money or a bullet in your head. So if I'm a drug cartel employee and I say plata o plomo, and I want to extort money from you, you better give up your money or you're going to end up with your body parts scattered across some highway. So in 2015, for example, like Gold Corp, I'd be very careful about investing in them, because their two major mines are Los Filos, which is in Guerrero, and Peñasquito, which is in Zacatecas. And in 2015, four Gold Corp workers went missing in a kidnapping. And also Torex Gold Resources in the same region in Guerrero were kidnapped in 2015. Now, McEwen Mining, which operates in the western Sinaloa state, actually had $8.5 million of gold doré. What is doré? Doré is basically unrefined gold, right? It's still in the unrefined state, and that was basically seized at gunpoint. Now, I guarantee you this, though, no gold mining company in Mexico will admit this, but all of them have to pay protection fees, even to take the doré to refineries. They all have to pay protection fees when they're hauling their gold out from their mines to the refineries or wherever it's going, and even silver. But I would say be more careful with gold, because gold's much more expensive than silver right now. If silver goes to $1,000 an ounce, you would have to then worry about that with silver. But for now, you have to worry more about that with gold. And I'm telling you, because these drug cartels are suffering right now, because this whole lockdown, because of COVID, has really put a dent in their raw materials from China, which they use to make drugs, especially fentanyl. So now the prices of heroin, methamphetamines, fentanyl are all soaring, because the Mexican drug cartels are having a problem sourcing due to the COVID lockdowns, the raw materials they need to manufacture these drugs in Mexico. And that means they're going to turn more to extortion. And I'm telling you, they are going to start robbing gold mines more. So be careful of that. Okay, so that wraps up financial news of the horrific and parasitic, and for the first week of September. Now, if you want to know what my thoughts are about gold and silver prices, because I warned my patrons when silver went almost back up to $29 an ounce and gold went to $1,990 an ounce, that gold and silver prices were going to get hit this week, and that's exactly what happened. So if you want this daily and weekly analysis from myself, please consider becoming a patron. I'll put the link below. And as always, remain intensely curious and have a beautiful day. Take care.